Welcome once again to HorrorBabble. Today, we will be continuing our foray into the works of the elusive M.D. Vickers. We'll be learning today about the slaughter at Daisybrook Farm. As always, we hope you enjoy it. Slaughter at Daisybrook Farm by M.D. Vickers. Farmer John Green was up very early. The cows needed milking. He didn't hate doing it. He couldn't. It was his job. It had to be done. One of the many tasks that was part and parcel of being a farmer. It was still fairly gloomy and strangely quiet. Usually, his animals began to make their presence known round about now. Odd, not even a hollering cockerel to break the eerie stillness. He had reached the cowshed and flicked on the artificial lighting. The scene that greeted him almost made him collapse. He would have done, but for clutching a nearby post. All the cows had been savagely butchered, hacked to bits. In some sort of trance, he began to walk between the two rows, shaking his head in stunned disbelief. He broke down as he approached his prize one, Doreen. The pen was awash with blood and entrails, its head and limbs piled up in one corner. Each one was alike in its appalling barbarity. Who or what could have done such a thing? John Green parted company from his dismembered bovines, still in a deeply traumatic state. His pigs? What about his pigs? And sheep, chickens. Panic-stricken, he ambled over to the pig pen. It was a bit lighter now. He wished it wasn't. The pigs had suffered the same hideous fate. Rather than being cut off, the limbs and heads appeared more to have been ripped off. They were untidy severances. He walked quickly back to the farmhouse. The blunderbuss firmly in his grasp, he returned to the scene of devastation. Looking all around him, he could see nothing untoward within the vicinity. Stealthily, he headed over to the chicken coop, bracing himself. He very nearly gagged at the sight before him. All around were pools of blood and broken eggs, interspersed with feathers and gizzards. "You bastard, whatever you are," Green hissed through clenched teeth. "You'll pay for this." His shotgun leveled, he proceeded to scan his outbuildings for signs of the intruder. A sudden breeze whipped up. Something akin to bundles of tumbleweed trundled past his mud-encrusted Wellington boots. It took him no longer than a couple of seconds to realize they were clumps of fleece. He avoided looking at the field containing his sheep, except to give the far boundary a brief surveillance. What he managed to glimpse out of the corner of his eye was mentally shoved aside. The urge to find the perpetrator or perpetrators had now become an obsession. He doubled back on himself, heading for the cowshed again. Once there, he began to slowly make his way round the back of it. His heart was thudding frantically in his chest. Creeping down the side of the long animal shelter, he was gradually nearing the corner that would take him into unexplored territory. Inhaling deeply, he pushed the gun round and then himself, his nerves jangling. His breath stopped in his throat at the sight before him, about 10 yards ahead. It resembled a huge, earthly toadstool, around 15 feet in height. The thing was shuffling slowly, leaving broken-off clods of earth in its wake. John Green's mind began to snap as he observed limbs on the beast, thick, scabrous attachments, the upper one swinging with the momentum of its gait. The blunderbuss slipped from his grasp and struck the back of the cowshed with a thunderous clang. The creature ceased movement and began to turn round. For the first time, the farmer became aware of its powerfully vile stench, impossible to be likened to anything he'd ever smelt before in his life. It was now facing him, except it didn't really have a face, just a rotting mushroom cap trailing strands of hay and twine. With a scream, Green retrieved his gun and fired at it instantly. The shot caught it in the middle, the large pellets ejecting from the back of it amidst a spray of soil and what looked like pieces of plastic sheeting. The grotesque behemoth gave voice to an awful, low groan from a slit that appeared in what passed for its head. The blunderbuss went off again, this time blasting off one of its legs. The appendage exploded immediately, a section of rusted, rolled-up chicken wire flying backwards with the accompanying sludge. Shot after shot sounded, until the entity was transformed into nothing more than ground-based slurry. It was then that John Green collapsed. It was shortly after Farmer Green came round and began to head back to the farmhouse that he realized something was missing. Behind the shed, there had once been a mountain of agricultural waste, accumulated over a period of at least 8 or so years. It had started out as a compost heap, but he'd lost interest, treating it instead as a mere rubbish tip that had eventually spiraled out of control. In light of this, it would appear that the vast, decomposing mound had somehow spawned a mutation, hence the farmer's early morning visitor. I will leave it up to you, readers, to draw your own conclusions. Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed this reading and would like to support our work here at HorrorBabble, please feel free to pay us a visit over at Patreon. Links to Patreon and the Bandcamp shop can be found in the video description below. Until next time, goodbye.